Another thing we've been tracking in the CoreGap report, this issue, the multi-layered fiscal crisis that seems to be persistently spreading throughout the United States, not just at the federal level, but at the state and the municipality level. A big push by as many as a quarter of the U.S. states to overhaul the rules for public sector worker unions. This is the reality of states finally responding to the drop in tax revenue as a result of the economic crisis, the recession, and the considerable drop in housing prices, which is a key provider of tax revenue for local governments. So you have state workers now working with wages and benefits that put them substantially higher than a good portion of the private sector, which has suffered rather devastating losses, rather permanent losses as well, in terms of their income as a result of the crisis and the new normality that follows. Meanwhile, in Washington, the fiscal budgetary crisis continues. We still don't have a budget passed for the 2011 fiscal year, which began about 4 months ago. And the proposals coming from both the GOP and President Obama on the 2012 fiscal budget, very much a conflict over the small amount of non-security discretionary funding in the federal budget, roughly only a tenth to about 1/8 of the spending. So a stalemate in Washington and increasingly protests and big fights over public sector unions in the state houses. Where do we think this is going to go? Again, the stalemate in Washington shows no sign of relenting. And if we look at the state issues, we think President Obama is probably going to side with the progressives in his own party and with the public sector unions. A lot of these states that are having these fights right now, Wisconsin, Ohio, key swing states in terms of the 2012 election, states that Obama carried and were decisive for him in 2008. But the three big underlying themes here that are not being addressed, the continued aging of the United States, the coming wave of boomer retirees, that's only going to make the non-discretionary, non-security part of the budget balloon and continue to balloon over time. When you talk about the public sector unions, you're into the question of educational reform because, of course, you're talking about the teacher unions. So this is a big issue moving forward in terms of America recapturing its economic competitiveness. And if you look at the 2012 budget submission from President Obama, we're looking at security spending, not just defense, but all security spending inside the U.S. federal budget, coming close to $900 billion. Which is a rather fantastic amount compared to what everybody else in the world is spending on defense and security. And it really raises the issue about America finally coming to grips with what it's defining as security and moving in some direction of reducing that overall burden. Because by most people's standards and by ours, it's unsustainable at this level.